What is going on, everybody? It is time to talk about the new patch notes for Spellslingers, as well as a new Planeswalker coming along with it. Let's go. All right, it is that time of the month, I guess, where we get a not even like it doesn't even happen that often, but we got a new patch, right? This is only patch 1.04. So that's really interesting. So yeah, we have a new patch with a bunch of new stuff. We're gonna do Planeswalker and some balance changes. So first, I love reading this because I love this little intro portion because I love seeing kind of where the design team is going and kind of like their reasonings for things. So yeah, let's take a look. So first of all, they say the meta has been the best since the soft launch of the game. I totally agree with that. I think there's been a wide variety. Again, we saw I got to Mythic with Ashiok. There's been Liliana at the top end. You had Teferi, Vivian, right, Domri. These are all of different viable. Sarah was fairly viable, right, and all these things. So yeah, pretty cool. Um yeah, no one's dominating. Yeah, like there's I wouldn't really say there's like one particular planeswalker that is ruining everyone's day. I think it's all fairly spread out. And the bigger thing is like people who play one deck hate another deck and things like that. It's very A B C style game, like A beats C, B beats C, or sorry, A beats B, B beats C, C beats A, style of meta, which is a sign of a healthy format. Saying why vote right. So as such, we're taking more conservative approach to balance changes this time around. Cool. So already we're like not going to see crazy changes. I think that makes a lot of sense. I like hearing that, and I like hearing that they kind of know how to recognize, hey, like we don't need to make crazy changes, so we're not going to. I like that a lot. We believe each card. Look out for ways to improve the playability of underused cards. Okay, so here we actually see that they're trying to. We actually might not even see major changes to meta cards. We might see buffs to cards that are underutilized. I like seeing this. I hate when cards are just like never used because they're just so bad. There's no reason to have that in a game like Spellslingers. So first of all, before we get into that, let's talk about the new Planeswalker Mu Yangling. You can also just call her Yangling for short. So it's a blue Planeswalker, our first monocolored Planeswalker with only the splash of color claws for that we've seen for a while, right? Otherwise, we've just had like the Jaces and everything, and things like that, right? Sorin, Driz, and all these people have had special, even Sarah have had special color restrictions around them. So that's pretty cool. And then we have this new ability, Tempest Insight. If two or more friendly attacking creatures damage your opponent, draw a card. So this is a really, I don't want to call it boring, but a fairly vanilla ability, let's call it. Where all you have to do is hit your opponent with two things and you get a card. That's it. Now, there are some caveats to this, right? So there are things where you can use a creature like Dragon Hatchling, which when it attacks will deal damage. So if the Dragon Hatchling attacks, deals the one damage with its ability, and then hits the opponent, it will also trigger this ability, and you'll get to draw a card. At least that is how people have been explaining it in the Discords and the chats and everything. So I'm working under assumption that they are correct. But yeah, 24 health is a fine health total. It's about the stage of someone like Chandra, but not quite Gideon range. That's fine. And let's look at the card series. You've got Yangling Sparrow, 3 mana for a 1/2 with flying. Then when it's summoned, you get a copy of it. So you just, for 3 mana, you get 2 1/2s with flying. Good way to enable the ability. Probably going to see a little bit of play in this deck. In pretty much most Yangling decks, unless something weird happens. And then we have River Dragon here, who is a 5 mana 4/3 flying, which gives other friendly creatures an additional point of power. This card seems pretty bad to me. I don't know why. Like, I've seen a lot of people experimenting with this, or at least putting it in their speculative decks. This card seems pretty bad. I don't again, I could be wrong, but you know, 5 mana for a 4/3 is pretty bad, right? And then like, you know, this deck doesn't feel particularly aggressive, so giving a buff like that, again, doesn't seem that strong, or doesn't seem that quintessential to the gameplay. So that's my thoughts. You know, again, I could be wrong, but this card is pretty good. This is definitely a nice addition. Guard the Flock. It's a 1 mana trap that says if a friendly creature is targeted by your opponent, you counter whatever happens. If it's a spell, if it's an effect, right? So that you could have a debut effect of like, you know, oh, stun a creature or deal 2 damage or whatever to a creature or something like that. Right? Guard the Flock will just snipe it, counter it. And if they cast something like, you know, a shock or anything like that, Flagrant Foul, just a 1 mana counter spell. This is really strong. It's just easy to hold up just constantly. It flexes really well. So I definitely would expect the Sparrow and the Trap to see a ton of play in the Yangling decks. The River Dragon, not so sure again. But as a whole, I'm kind of worried that this Planeswalker is going to feel a little underpowered. Sarah felt fine. Right, you know, Sarah and Soren have felt like decently powerful. This feels a little bit below that to me. So I don't know, maybe we'll see some buffs to this Planeswalker in the time being. Like, I think if this was a 5 mana 4/4, I think it would be better. Like the 4/3 body just makes it so meh. But again, maybe I could be wrong. And this card and this Planeswalkers and this card is pretty good. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But yeah, let's move on to the more meat of what we're talking about here. We've got the balance changes. So we've got a nerf to Sarah going down to 20 health from 21. That kind of makes sense. I think Sarah had just this inherent strength against aggro decks. And sorry, they also talking about Sarah's Disciple here. Going down a point of health as well. This card felt like pretty strong as well. It just kind of felt like an auto include, and it was just never bad to play. 2 mana 2/2 that drew you a card. What's there to complain about? So it says these changes are meant to weaken matchup against creature-based aggro decks. You know, heavily favored against aggressive strategies, but she's just overperforming a little bit, and that kind of makes sense, right? It's just like way too easy for Sarah to just gain life, block some stuff, right? If they had a one, I guess this is in the scenario of if they had a 1-powered creature, because otherwise I don't really see how the 1 health nerf really mattered in terms of Sarah Disciple, because you just play it and trade it off. I guess if you're like it still dies to shock. It would die to shock either way, right? I guess if there's something like that deals 1 damage, like that wouldn't normally kill it. Now it does. I don't really know what of an effect like that is seeing a lot of play, but anyways, any little bit to just like, you know, dial down Sarah's ability. So if you're an aggro deck that gets matched into Sarah, maybe you have more of a chance at this point. Good change all around. And then Jace, just receiving a small health buff. So Jace actually getting quite a bit of health now. So unsurprisingly, Jace has struggled to find its footing after last round of changes. So just want to give it a buff to help it out and see a little bit of play. I mean, it definitely makes sense that they want to buff it. I just think this isn't really going to do much. Maybe it will. But yeah, I think the bigger problem is now Jace just doesn't really have a coherent strategy that it can do, right? The whole reason why it went from an F grade Planeswalker to an A was because of Laboratory Maniac. Now Laboratory Maniac is a hell of a lot weaker. So it's just kind of lacking some kind of coherent strategy. But there are some changes that I think I've seen that are further down that might change it. I'll talk about those when we get there. And then we've got some nerfs to Teferi. Teferi was another really powerful Planeswalker in this current meta. Right, just getting your cards countered and getting healing is pretty crazy. So Teferi's actually getting nerfed even more since the last patch. Now going down to 2/4. I don't know if this really changes the card too much. Like 2/5 was still really 2/4 is still really nice, but it's just less survivability, I guess. So yeah, and I guess like if there's a lot of 4-powered attackers. So yeah, this is probably still playable, but it'll just be a whole lot weaker. I think a big change here is absorb, only getting 2 life instead of 3. You know, it's still good, right? Again, but again, it's both of these changes I think are going to do a lot to make Teferi's life against aggro a lot harder. So yeah. And then we've got a buff to Nissa, making Scion a 2/2 normally. So just a 1 mana 2/2 with Word, and then, you know, if you have extra mana left over to just sink into it, it's pretty nice. So it talks about dropping a Scion early more appealing. I don't really think that that's what Nissa needs. Like and it's only a point of power and toughness. Like, I don't see this really doing a whole lot. And again, like I don't even think it incentivizes people to play the Scion early. I think a lot of people have recognized like, hey, if I'm gonna win the game, I gotta kind of save this and play a big one. But I guess if you're playing it for like 3, then it's a 5/5. It's a 3 mana 5/5. I guess if you play it on turn 3, I don't know. Yeah, like my thing is like when I see this card, I just want to sink as much mana as I can into it, and get the most value out of it. But I don't know. We'll see how that change shapes out. But I don't think that was the right way to go with something like this. Hey, what's going on, Truska? Scion OP. Yeah, but I don't think the power toughness changes the card that much. I don't know. 1 point of power and toughness to each of the Titans. Say they lower their costs, move them in the right direction, but they still want to have them see more play. I totally agree. I would love these cards to see play. They're kind of very iconic. Personally, I kind of liked that they kind of well represented themselves in terms of their transition to Magic. Transition from Magic, right? They would be the exact same cards essentially, but yeah, we got to do something because nobody's playing them still. Like I've seen a little bit of Frost Titan, I've seen a little bit of Grave Titan. I think I've also even seen like some of the Kiora decks and Nissa decks playing Primeval Titan. But yeah, we got to get these cards in the game board somehow. We got to do something. We got to do it. So I appreciate any attempt to try and get these cards played. Cool. And now here I think are actually some pretty big ones. Blue, it says blue control decks have struggled, so we're going to make some changes to buff these cards, and remember they want, you know, all of these different cards to see some usage. So Cerulean Drake was a card that saw 0 play at the top, like towards like the top of the ladder. If you're like new to the game and you can craft this early, like you could like do some stuff with it, you know, in a more casual sense. But card was very bad. So now we're lowering it to 3 mana, but making it a 1/2. And I think this makes this card pretty good. Right? Just already, like on the next turn, next time you play it is kind of on par with a 3 mana 2/2 flying, which is a playable card. But then you have a lot of cards like Divination, Wizard Spellbook, and things like that, and just incidental card draw in a lot of the blue decks that will make this card playable. It will also have a new Planeswalker that wants to draw cards and wants to have flying creatures. So I think I'm going to try this out in Mu Yangling 100% and see how that feels. But yeah, I'm excited for this change, not because I really like Cerulean Dragon particularly, but because, or like want to draw a crap ton of cards or think that this is going to be like the new thing, but just because, you know, again, it was an underutilized card and hopefully it gets utilized a little bit more. This is also a really crazy change. I think it kind of makes it on par with Scarab. Scarab? What is the card? What is the what is the card that I'm thinking of? Yeah, the Scorpion, Infectious Scorpion, right? So Wintergirt Mage, going from 1/3 to 2/3. Keeping everything else the same. I think that's really good. And so they mentioned like see Cerulean Drake above, or sorry, see Cerulean Dragon above. If I've been saying Drake, if I've been saying sorry, I think that makes more sense. I don't know why they don't see Drake. It just rolls off the tongue easier for me. Yeah, Wintergrit Mage seems really strong. Now, the one power just kind of made it too of a low ceiling. So yeah, so like this, I'm thinking of this in not just you know, the Jace or anything like that, but Ashiok had been experimenting with Wintergrit Mage. I've seen it in a couple lists. I think this just having another essentially infectious scorpion will be pretty nice. Like this is essentially like a second copy of that. It's not as good, right? The chill wind doesn't kill the creature, but it is a 1 mana nightmare generator that interacts with the board. I think that's going to be nice. Like these buffs are not crazy but playable. Yeah. Like again, none of these are going to like break the format or anything. But it's, again, these are 2 cards that, as they say, they're doing exactly. This is my whole thing. Is when the design team states that they want to do something, great. The changes that they make have to actually achieve those things, right? So that's what I'm saying. Is like, I don't think that does it for this. I don't think that does it for this. Right. But like when it comes to these 2 cards, I think they've achieved their goal. Yeah, and then I think we have some more changes. So Awoken Horror going down a point of power just was too good. Like people could flip this really early, especially the raw decks. Or sorry, it was really only seeing play in the raw decks. Good change. Raw should not be able to beat you down that fast. Wrong turn, changing the miracle cost to making it so that it costs 4 less instead of 3 less. So now this card essentially costs 2 if it's the first card you've drawn. Or sorry, if you draw it. Interesting. I still don't. Sorry, I thought it was like, I keep thinking of Miracle as it being the first card you draw this turn. It's only the turn. It's the turn you draw it. I still don't like this. I like, they say like, oh, like, you know, it was too average for the best case scenario because it was really only 1 mana less than Flagrant Foul. Now it's 2 mana less than Flagrant Foul. I still don't like this. If you ever top deck, like if you ever draw this and don't have the ability to cast it, you're just screwed with the 6 mana card in your hand. Seems really bad. I still don't think you want to play this card over Flagrant Foul. I don't know how they would change this. Well, if they made this 5 mana, I think they make it 5 mana. Make it 5 mana, and then the miracle is still back down to 3. Right? So it's the same card, but like playing wrong turn for 6 mana is not doable. I think this is pretty bad still. Champion of the Perished, going from a 2/1 to a 3/1. Right, they mentioned the Liliana Reanimator decks, but they also kind of seem like they want you to play a zombie tribal deck. So personally, I don't think that's the change. I think they need the additional point of toughness personally. But it still makes it good if you are playing aggressively. If your opponent doesn't have a lot of blockers and this gets really big, it can be a problem still. And then we got some good changes to the Liliana Reanimator deck. It's been hard for some decks to deal with. So they mention, they've been able to close out games very fast. So just reducing the stats by a little bit. So here, going from 9/4 to an 8/4. So now, and same thing for Grimgrin, going down a point of power and toughness. And they mention instead of needing to be over 20 health, you're now safe at 18 health. Right, because what they would do is you have Soul Seaver Lich. Is that true? Wait, no, because if they still do Silent Strike, that they still kill you. I'm confused. I don't understand like what they're talking about here, but the point is like you have a little more if you don't block, I guess. If you have no creatures or whatever, and or whatever, you're not just dead. Yeah, I don't know. This 20+ health or whatever confuses me. But the point is nerfing the cards a little bit. It also, this is not. They're not going down in toughness. Sorry, this one is not. But this one is. So this is like maybe a little bit easier to block and get rid of. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think these nerfs are enough. I think this needs to go down a point of toughness. I think this should be an 8/3, and then you could like remove it more easily. Anyways, there's another change to Stitcher Scob, roosting it down to a 1/1. So that had almost no bad use cases. This was true at worst case scenario. It was a 2-mana 2/2. And in Teferi, a 2-mana 2/2 that also got you closer to drawing, from your ability was pretty hot. So they want it to be more as a finisher rather than a board stabilizer. So removing some of the inherent power to reduce the effectiveness, to make sure it is more of the former and reduce the effectiveness of its evasive keywords, right? So if this got flying and got some power and toughness or whatever, it would just dominate. That kind of makes sense. I don't know. Like you have to cast this for a lot now in order for it to really get like super big to be really nice. But I think the card is still good. But again, I just don't think you want to play it for 2 now or anything less than like 7. You have to cast it for a lot. Yeah. And then we've got Bag of Tricks gaining a charge. So red decks have few ways to generate card advantage. This one never really got there, right? They always use the other one, the one that makes a temporary card. So said, hey, just consider this, if you were looking. So this is now 2 mana to get 3 cards, essentially. That's really good. So hopefully, and especially if you're an aggro deck, you're fine to play a beast that costs 3 or less. So yeah, card is good. Hopefully we'll see some more play. Mindless Rage going down to 2 mana. Says this was difficult to cast, so lowering the mana cost. Personally, I don't think that's the problem with the card. I think my main issue with the card is that it is a random enemy creature. So if my opponent has 2 things and I want to kill one of them, I don't want to cast this card. I want to cast this so I can guarantee kill something on my opponent's board. The 2 mana is nice. Again, maybe it means that this will be a buff to the decks that already play Barbarian class, which I don't really know which ones those are, but the ones that do will maybe receive a little bit of a buff here. Another really interesting buff here, Eternal Phoenix, like a mythic from the most recent expansion, saw exactly 0 play. 0. Right, it was just too expensive, as they say, at 4 mana to threaten the opponent. So reducing the cost and compensating with the health reduction will hopefully have it see play in some aggro decks. Again, another creature with flying. Maybe we'll also see play in Yangling. And also maybe just see play in something like Vivian, just getting some upgrades and stuff. Yeah. I still don't know if it's good, because a 3 mana 2/1, like you'd also have to have like a decent amount of card draw, right? Because you want to draw your Eternal Phoenix more and more. It also is weird if you have 2 and you draw one of them and you don't know which one, like if it could be the non-upgraded one. So I don't know. A lot of things about this card are weird, where I see like how the card is supposed to work, but I don't know if it actually is that in practice. Blitzing Minotaur going to a 4/3. So apparently this is what it was like in the olden days. It's now back and dangerous. And they want to make aggro decks better. Cool. It's quite an interesting shift because again, they're making a lot of changes. I feel like this would be a good change anyways, and they didn't need to necessarily do all the stuff to Teferi. But this is notably now a 4-power creature. So like now like the Teferi's Acolyte, right, can't block this and live. So these are all things to note. All things to note. Yeah, I think I don't think any decks are really going to now slot this card in, but again, it just makes the decks that are already playing this card going to do so much better. A change they're not mentioning is Chandra deals 5 damage now. Wait, are you serious? Hold up, I gotta see this. I gotta see this. Wait. Some live updates. Live updates. Oh my god. Why didn't they announce that? That's insane. That's like insane. Oh, they just forgot? Okay. Well, they gotta change the website, no? Are they gonna update just update the website? But oh damn, that's pretty crazy. Okay. All right, so we now have confirmation as well that like Chandra's ability now deals 5 damage. That is a huge buff, right? So like now, like between things like Bag of Tricks, and Blitzing Minotaur, I think, Chandra gonna mess up some people, right? Because you also have like so many good, like now Ball Lightning. Chandra's a hard counter to the new Spellslinger. Yeah. I was gonna say like that seems like the okay. Have we confirmed? Like Troska, tell me, like is Yangling good? She seems bad. I think she's bad. Like I think she's just not that good. I'm gonna play her in a moment, but like I don't know. I don't know why I'm so like this card's bad. Young Pyromancer, they say it's also, this is probably another thing that they forgot to put. They buffing, or they're nerfing it by having it go to 4 mana, but also it's getting a point of toughness. It used to be a 3/2. So this was too difficult to deal with when it came out of Raw. I can still win you the game, but now it's more of a mid-range than an aggro strategy. Yeah, I think this is you know, a fine change. I don't like it. Definitely makes it like a worse card. I think Raw might just get rid of this card altogether. I guess it also doesn't conflict with like the Magnum Opus. I don't know. Been trying it well. She beats Yangling. Yeah, reminds me of Soren a little bit. Yeah, I mean, but like Soren could win. Soren could like beat other decks, and like Soren had a good card pool. My thing is, okay, here's the thing. We're having a little live discussion here. This card is bad. I think River Dragon is so bad. This card's fine. This card's fine. This card is bad. I don't even mind the ability that much. The ability is whatever. I think this card is weird. I don't understand why it's here, and it's bad. While we're doing that, while we're discussing this, Pasture Prowler going from a 3/4 to a 4/4. This card basically did absolutely nothing. Maybe we'll see. Yeah, now we're in the detonator space. Makes a lot of sense. It's actually a little bit better because giving your opponent a 1/1 is like kind of like whatever. Rouge makes sense to the deck, but it's not awesome. I don't think it makes sense. I think it's pretty bad. I don't. Why are we trying to like just buff some creatures? Like yes, you can go wide and you can deal some extra damage, but it doesn't enable anything or anything like that. Gauntlet of Ogre Power. Getting an extra charge. I think this doesn't really change the card that much. It just makes it a little bit better. I'm not sure what decks want to play this. It could be the decks also playing, the Barbarian class. Treetop Lookout, going to a 3/3. Some great decks just want to play a 2-mana 3/3. Yes. Just yes. The bonus text turning off opponents' traps should be a nice boon to shore up those decks against fairy. Yes, like just good change, awesome change. Cool. Card is good. All right, and Alabaster Faith no longer giving the bonus toughness. Said provides a ton of value. Now it's easier for direct damage and other creatures to trade off in combat. Yeah, I think like this is like definitely I would say a noticeable nerf, but it's not going to be that relevant in terms of. Also, there's a typo here. I'm finding a whole bunch of stuff in this. I'm sorry, Spellslingers. I'm not trying to bash any of your work. You're doing great work. You're doing your best. But what was I gonna say? Because you want to put this on an evasive creature anyways, right? You want to put it on something that flies. I mean, it makes it get rid of through damage means, but again, like I feel like you're putting this on a creature with flying anyways. Hard for them to value trade. Yeah, harder to value trade that. Yeah, definitely. But again, you're like putting on something that flies anyways. Sigarda Heron's Grace going down to a 4/3. Sigarda can be a must answer card, so lowering her health to 3. Definitely makes sense in the cases where it's a must answer card. But also, I don't know if this kills the card. It's just quite a substantial nerf. right? It is definitely weaker. It probably will still see play, but it's definitely a weaker card. They got some bug fixes. Don't usually cover these. Although I was looking for some particular things in here because I had been noticing some things. I had been playing Drist and I noticed that Drist Herald is not interacting well with the werewolves. Where if you make a werewolf into a legendary and it flips, it no longer keeps the legendary clause. I am told by people, in the discords and everything, that should not be the case, that it should keep the legendary clause because it's the same creature. It's not leaving the field. It's just, transforming. But that is not happening as far as I'm concerned. I could be wrong, and that could just be how they are intending it. But if it is not, then it is indeed a bug that they have yet to fix. Cool, but I'm not going to discuss all these bugs. I'm hardly ever aware of all of these different things when they happen. So yeah, let's talk about just things overall. First of all, again, I like seeing all of the different buffs to the various cards that are seeing not as much play, bag of tricks, the Prowler and everything, like all these little things. I'm really excited to see if Winter Grip Mage and Cerulean Dragon are playable. So yeah, I am a little bit worried that combining the Sarah nerfs with the Teferi nerfs and the aggro buffs, like we're now going to have a full-on aggro meta. I think that's what happened based upon what I'm hearing from Troska. So, but again, we'll see. So like I'm a little concerned if the nerfs here were unnecessary. Not that they're too much, not that they're like, oh my god, I can't play these Planeswalkers anymore, but combining those with the buffs from the aggro decks has shifted the balance a little bit too much. I don't know, we'll see, but overall, generally happy that where Spellslingers is at and the balance changes that have come with it. All right, that's gonna do it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And if you guys are watching on Twitch, make sure to leave a follow. All that stuff really helps. All right, see you guys for the next video.